Jemani sat down, gasping, as the snake transformed back into Ronke, the lady he had brought. The spiritualist ordered Ronke to transform back into a snake and return to the pot. Facing Jemani, the spiritualist explained the ritual. This is your money ritual. You will carry this pot with the snake back to your house and follow these instructions. 1. Feed her with the blood. Ronke's disappearance was not traced to Jemani, even though her parents reported it to the police. Her lifestyle, which involved going out with different men as long as they could afford her expenses, made it difficult to determine her whereabouts. The authorities faced significant challenges in tracking her movements and identifying any potential suspects due to her unpredictable and transient behavior. On the 7th day, Jemani returned to the village to see the spiritualist. The spiritualist, glad to see him, informed Jemani that the ritual was completed and his witch was ready. Filled with excitement, Jemani followed the spiritualist to another hut. The spiritualist carried a big clay pot and placed it in front of Jemani, instructing him not to be afraid of whatever he might see. The spiritualist chanted some incantations and opened the pot. A big black python emerged, causing Jemani to jump up in fear, wanting to run away. The spiritualist ordered him to sit down and reassured him that nothing would happen. Jemani sat down, gasping, as the snake transformed back into Ronke, the lady he had brought. The spiritualist ordered Ronke to transform back into a snake and return to the pot. Facing Jemani, the spiritualist explained the ritual. This is your money ritual. You will carry this pot with the snake back to your house and follow these instructions. 1. Feed her with the blood of a lamb every fortnight. 2nd, every 3 days, call her name thrice. The snake will crawl out of the pot and transform into Ronke. You will make love to her, then ask her to bring you money. As soon as she transforms back into a snake, a bag full of money will appear beside the pot. 3rd, you must not have intimacy with anyone else except her, and she must not be seen by another person. If you miss giving her the lamb's blood, she will crawl out and bite you to death. If you sleep with another woman or another person sees her, you will go mad and eventually die. The last warning will be communicated to you later. Jemani thought about it for a moment and said, those are not that difficult. Besides, I can always make love to her to satisfy my sexual need. The money ritual started working for Jemani. Just within few months, he became rich, spending lavishly, acquiring exotic cars, and living in big mansion. In Idaje village, Jerry continued to prosper in his fruits and vegetable business, and he became the biggest seller in the entire village. His kindness, truthfulness, and innovative way of packaging his goods make him different from others he met in the business. He starts amassing huge profits. Despite this, he understands the money he's making is just a peanut compared to his father's empire. Therefore, he felt sad because he's yet to achieve the purpose while he was in the village, to find a beautiful bride to take home to his father. No beautiful lady in the village wants to relate with a man on crutches beyond business. Gradually, 7 months passed since they both left their father's house. Jerry had to work on getting a bride to present to his father, hoping his brother Jemani has not brought home his bride yet. Most importantly, Jerry knew that only true love would make a woman settle for a crippled man selling fruits and vegetables, and he prayed to find such love as soon as possible. One day, Jerry was at the market selling his fruits when an old woman approached his store. She told Jerry she wanted to buy some vegetables but didn't have any money at the moment. She promised to send someone to pay him the next day. Jerry took pity on the old woman and sold the fruit to her with no intention of collecting payment from her. The next day, Jerry was at his stall when a very beautiful young lady came by. She introduced herself as Mary and said, "My grandmother sent me to pay you for the fruit she bought on credit yesterday. She also wanted me to thank you deeply for your trust and to buy more fruits." Jerry, leaning on his crutches, was dumbfounded. It was the first time he had seen Mary Jerry. She was the most beautiful lady he had seen since he arrived in Idaje village. Mary went closer and handed over the money to Jerry, selecting more fruits, carrots and cucumbers, since she had little to do at home and Jerry had just a few fruits to sell. Mary demanded to assist him. When Jerry was done in the market, Mary helped him carry his basket to the entrance of his house. As they walked, they chatted, while passerby gazed at them, wondering what a beautiful girl was doing with a lonely, crippled man. Some even made funny remarks like, "You both are fit for each other." Jerry feared Mary could be provoked by their comments, but he was surprised that she simply smiled at their remarks. "So, you are the newest addition to our community," the famous vegetable seller, who suddenly gained recognition because of his special personality. But no one mentioned that you were crippled. How did it happen? Mary asked. Jerry laughed heartily at her statement, knowing he had to answer her question, but not wanting to lie. He wisely changed the topic. "I had never seen you around the village before today. Aren't you from here?" "Well, I lived with my parents in the city and studied there, but after their deaths, I had to return to stay with my grandmother. I need money to continue my education, and most times I resort to menial jobs to cover part of my school expenses," Mary explained. Jerry felt deeply sorry for her, gave his condolences, and remained quiet for most of the journey. Mary gave the basket to Jerry at his house entrance and returned to her own home, promising to come back the next day to assist him in the market. The closeness between Mary and Jerry developed rapidly, and hardly a day passed without them seeing each other. Now that Mary was closer to Jerry, she decided to visit him at home and assist him with a few chores. When she arrived at Jerry's house, she observed that the house was neatly arranged and some items were placed high above the ground. She asked, "How do you manage to get things up here, since you are crippled?" Jerry quickly pointed to a stick outside the house. "I used that stick to bring them down and put them back," he replied. Jerry felt scared that Mary might discover his secrets, but he managed to answer all her questions wisely. When Mary finished her tour of his house, she offered to help Jerry wash his clothes and do some chores before going back to her grandmother. With what Mary did, Jerry fell in love with her even more. After she was done, she promised to return the next day if she was free to help him prepare a delicious meal, as she once had a crippled friend and knew how difficult it could be to move around. That night, Jerry couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Mary, amazed at how generous and responsible she was, and how easily she warmed up to him despite his apparent disability. He was already deeply in love with her, but was scared to tell her for fear of rejection. The next day, Mary came to the market with her grandmother. After buying all they needed, Mary stayed back to help Jerry sell his fruits, then followed him home and helped him as usual. As she was leaving, Jerry offered her some money. She initially refused, but eventually started accepting it as her payment. One evening, after Mary had finished helping Jerry at home, she was about to leave when Jerry called her back. He gave her some money and said, "That's your salary for today." "Well, I guess we could call it that. I'm saving every cent you give me. When it is enough, I will go back to school," she said, hugging Jerry for the first time before heading home. Jerry was so touched by her words. He checked his calendar and realized it had been 8 months already. He had just a few months left to take a woman to his father. However, Jerry was already established in Idaje village and was happy with his success. Since Germany became rich through money rituals, many ladies started flocking around him. Though he could lavish money on them, he couldn't have any intimacy with them. One fateful day, he attended a birthday party of a wealthy friend. There, he noticed a very beautiful lady, Janet, who was hanging around his friend. Germany's heart raced as he fell in love with her at first sight. Janet had come from England to attend the birthday party of her brother, who was a friend of Germany. Germany got close to Janet, lavishing money on her and gifting her expensive designer items with all the show of love. It didn't take long for Janet to agree to Germany's proposal. Germany intended to marry Janet and introduce her to his father so he could take over his father's empire and thereby expand his network. However, Janet did not truly love Germany. She was only impressed by his wealth, which is why she agreed to marry him. On a fateful day, Janet decided to visit Germany at his home. Germany happily welcomed her and they talked for a while. After some time, Janet changed into a sexy outfit, seeing the beauty and the perfect shape of Janet in her almost transparent gown. Germany got carried away and started getting intimate with her when he suddenly heard a scary voice saying, "Don't try it. If you do, you will run mad." Germany gasped and jumped up, quickly remembering the rule of the morning rituals he had performed, which forbade him from sleeping with any woman aside from the snake. Greatly worried, Janet shouted, "What happened?" Seeing Germany sweating profusely, he responded, "Nothing, baby. I just remember that my father told us it's a taboo in our lineage to sleep with a woman before marrying her." That scared me immediately when I remembered. Feeling compassionate for Germany, Janet said, "My love, I'm all yours till after marriage." Jerry's next move was to find a way to approach Mary. His love for her continued to grow, and he knew he had to act fast before the year ended. Jerry devised a plan, and on a fateful day, after Mary had finished setting up Jerry's house and was about to leave, Jerry called her. "Mary, I have a favor to ask of you." He looked remorseful. "If you can do this for me, I'll be the happiest man on earth." Mary, curious, asked, "What is it? Tell me. You know I will do anything within my capacity for you." Jerry looked directly into Mary's eyes while holding her hand and said, "Mary, I had a void in me that has been empty for a long time now, and since I set my eyes on you, I discovered you are the only joy that can fill that empty space inside of me. Please, Mary, I want you to marry me." Jerry looked sober. Mary, a bit surprised, retreated a little. "Jerry, I have known you to be a good man, compassionate and kind, but I am not ready for marriage now. I don't want any entanglement that will affect my education." Jerry cut in. "Mary, you are my joy. I'm ready to support you in your education to any level you wish to study." "Jerry, I need to go now. Please, it's late," Mary said as she left Jerry's house. Jerry was left with mixed feelings. Haven't I ended the friendship between me and Mary now? But if she agrees to marry me, I will be the happiest man on earth. But who will marry a man on crutches? Jerry thought to himself. Mary's visit to Jerry's house became less frequent as she only spent a little time there and avoided any talk that could bring up Jerry's marriage proposal. Jerry, however, never gave up. He took the time to get closer to Mary's grandmother, visiting her more frequently, telling himself, "If Mary is the prize, I won't lose her for anything." After more than 3 months of persistence, Mary finally agreed to Jerry's proposal on the condition that her studies would continue. The relationship between Jerry and Mary grew so much that some of the villagers began referring to Mary as the crippled wife. Some would even murmur, "How can a beautiful lady like this leave all the able-bodied admirers to settle with a crippled man? He must have used a charm on her." Another would say, but all these talks did not worry Mary as her love was fixed on Jerry. With Mary's affection and the success of Jerry's business, he became so comfortable that he almost forgot that it had already been a year since he left his father's house and it was time to return home. Germany did not let the money he now had make him forget he had an empire to take over. He hurriedly got engaged to Janet and they both planned to go back to Nupe to see his father and take over the empire. Germany and Janet traveled back to his father's house in an elaborate entry, flaunting luxurious cars and entourage. "Father, See your son. I have multiplied the money you gave me. I invested into businesses, and within this short time, I was able to accomplish this. See all that I now own, Jemani said, showing off his cars and luxuries. Father, that's not all. Please, meet my wife, Janet. Janet stepped out of the car to greet her father-in-law. Chief Okafor, amazed at his son's sudden success, thought to himself, how did a proud, arrogant Jemani amass this much luxury within a year? Chief Okafor embraced and welcomed Jemani. Jemani, since you are the first to come home with a wife and a success story, you will be the sole owner of my empire, which will be handed over to you after your marriage, Chief Okafor said. A week after Jemani's return to Nupe, Jerry decided to visit Nupe with Mary. As they approached the road leading to his father's compound, Jerry suddenly dropped his crutches and stood firm on his feet. Mary gasped in shock. So you can walk? You've been pretending to be crippled all this time. But why would you deceive me? Jerry, filled with remorse, pleaded, I'm sorry, Mary. I had to do this for my plan to succeed. You will understand better when we reached my father's compound. But please know, I genuinely love you for accepting me, even while I pretended to be crippled and poor. Mary, still surprised by the revelation, looked at Jerry with a mixture of confusion and disbelief. Despite everything, she chose to trust him and followed him to his father's compound. When they got to his father's compound, Mary's heart raced. She was surprised by the mansion she saw, that truly Jerry was from a very rich home and he was never poor. Chief Okafor welcomed Jerry and Mary, and they both embraced each other. Jerry took time to introduce Mary as his wife-to-be. Chief Okafor told Jerry, how I wished you arrived earlier, before your brother Jemani. He came before you with his fiancée, and to fulfill my promise, I have promised him the sole ownership of my empire. Jerry, not surprised. Father, I don't have any problem with that. We are both brothers and family. Jemani is my brother, but please allow me head one of your company and earn a living. Chief Okafor agreed to Jerry's request. Jemani bought a mansion not too far from his father's compound. There, he dedicated a secret room for his money ritual, where he put the pot containing the snake. He always keeps to feeding the snake with fresh blood of a lamb every 7 days. Jemani will put a sleeping pill inside Janet's food. Each night is to visit the secret room, where he will make love with the snake transformed to Ronke. Jemani had a wardrobe full of money brought by the ritual, since he had little or no use for it. A month after, Chief Okafor threw an elaborate wedding for his two sons. Jemani married Janet, while Jerry married Mary. After the wedding, Chief Okafor handed over the control of all his empire to Jemani, while Jerry also worked in one of the company now under Jemani's control. Problems started for Jemani after the wedding celebration has ended. Janet, his new bride, started disturbing him for sex. My love, you promised me after the wedding. Now we are married. You have never made attempts to make love to me. What have I done to deserve this? Janet will question Jemani. Jemani will always give an excuse. Can't you see that I'm tired? Jemani has series of excuses. From he's scared of making love. Later, he lied that he's impotent, that he needs time to treat his impotency. After a year of marriage, Janet got tired of Jemani excuses to make love with her. Then she consulted a spiritualist, an old woman in the outskirts of the city. The spiritualist told Janet that her husband has a covenant with a demon that prevents him from making love with her. The spiritualist also gave Janet a powerful white powder, told her to not eat any food that night. On that same night, Janet stylishly disposed the food she was meant to eat, containing a sleeping pill, unknown to Jemani. Janet pretended to be asleep beside Jemani. In the middle of the night, Jemani stood up beside Janet, thinking she's fast asleep, went out of the bedroom to the secret room. Few minutes later, Jemani has left the room. Janet stood up, rubbed the powder given to her by the spiritualist on her face, pounded around the house, looking for the secret room. As she walked past the visitor's room, her body felt heavy. This signaled what the old spiritualist told her that she would feel when she's around the room. Janet gazed at a big wardrobe. On this wardrobe, Jemani keeps his multitude of shoes. As Janet was trying to check around the wardrobe, she noticed a tiny line of opening behind the wardrobe. Could it be a room is secretly located here and covered with a wardrobe? Janet thought. Janet pushed the wardrobe with a force and the wardrobe opened. She shouted, "Ah, abomination!" as she saw Jemani making love with Ronke. Jemani shouted, "What are you doing here? Ah, I'm finished." Immediately Ronke saw Janet. She transformed back to snake and with force bites Jemani and disappeared. Jemani groaned in pain and burst into incoherent laughter. He started shouting incoherently, "Yes, all for the money. I turned her to snake. Ronke, I turned her to snake." Jemani foamed in his mouth and died a moment after. Janet, seeing this horror happening in her eyes, got greatly terrified. She quickly ran out of the house and called Chief Okafor. Chief Okafor and Jerry, with some couples of men, went in to check the situation, found Jemani dead, and also saw local pots and some other ritual items. They were shocked to see stockpile of money filled with a big wardrobe inside the room. Janet returned back to her family and Jerry took over her father, Chief Okafor's empire. Mary completed her studies and joined her husband in managing the companies. They both had 3 children after 6 years of their marriage. Chief Okafor died peacefully at the age of 75 years. This is where greed and desperation landed Jemani. Always remember that there is time for everything, and no matter what, a destiny must be fulfilled and it cannot be truncated. And this is the story of Jerry. He waited on the timing, on the perfect timing, and he got what he deserved. And the story of Ronke is also a lesson to young ladies who follow men because of money to be very careful, because many are roaming as kind gentlemen, but few are actually really kind. I hope you learned something from this story. Please let us know in the comment section the moral lessons you learned from this story. Also, let us know where you are watching from. Please drop a comment, like, and also subscribe. We will see you in another story. Till then, bye for now. Stay blessed and positive.